know those guys are going to do it?
2015, to answer your question.
No
Sherrod UK, Marcus Clutton part of the driver lineup, I seem to recall. Donington Park, and both races at Anglesey they won, obviously across 2 events. So yeah, it's been a long time since we had, and that might be the only other time actually that we've had 3 races in a row won by the same team. If it becomes relevant at the end, we'll double check that, but for now, it is all about the start and getting through Clervaux corner in one piece. 2x2 we run then to the line, and it is the number 22 car that starts from pole position of Russell Joyce. On the right, 111 GCI Racing. Can GCI Racing sweep round the outside of Russell into the corner in which his teammate Jack Constable went off in the earlier race? They're almost 3 wide into turn 1. Sailing round the outside goes GCI and Red River Sport, who are sideways. There's a little bit of a tap in the tail to the 103, and that is Uvio. Uvio through the gravel trap. Hopefully that hasn't damaged the splitter. They've done well to get out the other side. Farkini is at the wheel for the first stint of the race, and that was not the ideal start to his race, but Richard, I think that front splitter is still intact. That's good news.
Yeah, let's hope so. I guess, you know, you're gonna, if you can survive that on the first turn, then that might be indicative of the way that fortune is going to go over the course of this race. But it's GCI out front as they go into Tower for the first time. Always a lovely sight when they get going, isn't it? All bunched together. Already got the runners going through, making progress. MJ Tech Racing, and again, sorry, I've normally put the curse of the commentator on you for tipping you to win. Apologise if that goes wrong. I just don't think somehow it will. It all looks very measured so far.
Well, that's why I asked you before you could ask me, Richard,
and
because...
who are you going to say?
The race is starting now. It wouldn't be fair of me to make a prediction at this point, would it? So, moving swiftly on, I have a history of putting the curse of the commentator on people, and I quite like people in the Fun Cup paddock. I don't want to upset them. GCI Racing lead the way. It is EDF in second place. The 103 there slipping up the inside of Russell Joyce for third. Caught a glimpse there of Morpheus. That's Neil Burrows, remember, at the wheel of the multicoloured car. That started from the back row of the grid alongside the MJ Tech car of Will Abraham. So both of the top 2 from the early race having to come from the back of the grid. That's not the way it normally works. It just so happens that Morpheus didn't get a great grid draw. PLR, though, are closer to the front in this one. We never really spoke much about PLR Racing in race number 1, Richard, because they got drawn at the back, and in such a short race, they just didn't have the time to get to the front. Getting to the front, meanwhile, is what EDF are trying to do around the outside of GCI Racing, but couldn't quite do it through Clervaux.
Yeah, what was it we said about taking it easy off the start? No cut and thrust at the start of these races, and yeah, once you get your racing head on, that is it, isn't it? It
is, certainly. So out onto the back straight we go then. Who's in that EDF car? It is Simon Coles, who pulls up alongside the 111 of Ian Wood. Outside line into Tower, doesn't matter, he's cleared him already, so that's a lead change. And into the front of the field goes the EDF number 246 car. Round Tower corner we go. There's the Morpheus Motorsport machine. That is really on a charge, isn't it, with Neil Burrows? Where is Will Abraham? I don't think he's made quite the same sort of scorching progress on the opening lap that his teammate Scott Jeffs did in the opening race. Actually, no, maybe not. There he is. He's only a couple of places behind the Morpheus machine, as the Ratters racing car is already starting to fall apart. It didn't take long in race 1 for them to damage the front splitter, and they've continued in the same vein in race 2.
Yeah, it could be some more gaffer tape, but they have fixed the car. If you remember, that was the one that had the swathes of gaffer tape on the near side as they went out, but all sorted out now and fit and raring to go, and about to be Morpheus at the moment. There he goes down the inside, not quite there. Uvio Hoffman making up positions as well after the trip through the gravel. These early stages, of course, you want to make up as much time as you can before the field gets strung out, really.
Indeed you do, and more progress made by Morpheus. Every time they get past a car, MJ Tech seem to do the same thing. It's a 3-way battle out in front at the moment. EDF, GCI and Axiometrics. PLR Racing trying to move up into 4th ahead of Skull Club, which they do. The Ben Pitch-driven PLR Racing car for the opening stint. Rounds Hawthorne corner, but yeah, good to see PLR mixing it near the front of the field again. That's what we like to see. One of the veteran teams of Fun Cup Endurance Racing competition. Still just as quick as ever. Can they bridge that gap now, though, to the top 3? That's the question. Red River Sport also trying to gain some ground. Number 200 started by Gareth Williams, with Johnny Molan to take over later on, but goes to the outside and actually ends up losing a place to Team 3, which is the John Perrott-driven number 98 machine. Good-looking car, that 98, isn't it? And it's just gained a place down at Tower.
Yeah, I've got to say, the liveries are fantastic all the way down the field, to be perfectly honest, but it just lends itself here, doesn't it? This is so picturesque, isn't it? Picture postcard shot. Plenty of greens, lots of great colours, lots of great racing going on as well.
Indeed so. Oh dear, 2 left on the grass I thought there for the Red River Sport car, but managed to keep it together. There's the Uvio machine, by the way, after that gravelly excursion at the first corner. So Farchini has dodged one bullet and now tries to get up alongside the Ratters Racing car. There goes Will Abraham. Look, he's on the tail now of Morpheus, so those two are back together again, the two that did battle for the Race 1 victory.
And look at how many cars they've got past already. I mean, just if you've not seen this before, these guys starting off the back, one through draw, one through having won the previous race, and have already made a huge amount of progress.
Dear me, see data there at the inside of Ratters Racing. But yeah, you're right. I mean, they're both in the top 10 already, which is pretty impressive. It took MJ Tech, I think, most of the race, didn't it, to get to the front? 27 laps to get to the front in race number 1.
Yeah, aided by 2 safety cars and a pit stop.
Indeed so, yes. Yeah, it was after the first 2 pit stops, actually, that they hit the front. They got into the top 5 very quickly, but actually getting into the lead took a little bit longer. But looks like they're going to take their time again in this race. There's no major rush, really. Farchini, in a rush, though. Gets up the inside of Ratters Racing. Does now gain that place as Skull Club are about to lose another place or two, I think, down towards Tower Corner. Around the outside goes Team 3. Up the inside went Morpheus Racing. So Morpheus are now into 6th position. And bringing with them the MJ Tech car. That's heading through Barcroft. MJ Tech on the tail of Morpheus Racing. They're fighting over 5th at the moment, but there is an argument here, I think, isn't there, to work together, maybe. We see this quite often in Fun Cup races. 2 cars working together can be quicker than the group ahead, especially when the group ahead are going side by side, which is the case here. For trouble is in Fun Cup, it's always busy. Even if you jumped in an hour into the race, you'll probably still be side by side, where there is contact here between Morpheus and MJ Tech. Now, that was a little unnecessary, I think. MJ Tech were trying to go around the outside and were shown not a lot of room by Morpheus Racing there. Neil Burrows hangs onto the place, and again, somehow...
Now a little bit whilst these guys have been swapping over, and Duvia Hoffman closed up, so just at the moment needs to get past that 103, doesn't he?
Yeah, it does really. Simon Coles, though, is setting a strong pace out in front. He's nearly 3.5 seconds clear now. GCI Racing in second, who are being caught by Ben Pitch. Uvio struggling to get past Chris Wetherill for the time being. Farchini, not a bad recovery this, given the fact this car was in the gravel at turn 1 and about to perhaps move into the top 6.
I think so, yeah, he's taken the wide line in. This is maybe to garner a little bit more momentum out of the corner. Depends where's the gap. There isn't on the outside. Maybe he was hoping for that. But of course, with 3 hours, he's got plenty of time before a changeover just to work out where he can do it. Has he still got the momentum? Comes out of the toe, has a quick look. Wetherill cuts across as well.
Quite do it into Clairvaux, but exploring the greenery, but he, I think, realised that was what was going to happen and chose not to do it. Right, good battles going on further back. Wherever Team Ratters Racing are, there seems to be action, and they're up the inside of the number 22 machine. They bring seed data with them as well. What are they battling over? That is for something like 12th or 13th place, I think, this tussle. At the front of which is the number 1 car. Now, we haven't mentioned Team Olympian yet. No. They've got Chris Devell in the car for the first. There's a spin further back. That's the Signature RV car, and good avoiding action there by Wave 9, I think that was, number 207, to avoid them. Signature RV, John Whitehouse in the car that he shares with Marcus Clutton and Steve Ruston. Clutton, interestingly, doing stints 2 and 5, so he's not finishing the race as he normally would, Marcus Clutton. And he'll be doing the next stint in the race, but will be jumping in the car somewhere towards the back now after that spin.
He will, as the number 1, almost in the top 10 Olympian GRD, 11th place at the moment, trying to close down on Red River Sport. Now, when's the first pit window?
40 minutes off the top. No, sorry, 3-hour race, isn't it? 30 minutes in.
30 minutes.
30 minutes in for a 3-hour race.
Chats with some of the drivers that were involved. I think they're racing Harry Reynolds and Reese racing in Britcar this weekend. And Gracie's ambassador. A lovely little chat. And these youngsters so switched on to social media. A lot of the times you do a little interview, just a short, 10-15 minute interview. Gracie's got it all over social media, and so many more hits. The youngsters are so good. They're getting stuff out there, and she's got a plethora of followers, and you can see why. She's putting in some good pace here.
No, she certainly is. Right then, we saw that spin alert racing. Morpheus have done so as well. Just caught a glimpse there of the Morpheus Racing car ahead of PLR. Uvio also moving through sort of just behind those two after the moment earlier on for Farchini. Heads through Barcroft. Now, it's been a little while since Uvio won a race. Functionally quicker on this lap, but only we're talking a few hundredths, so the gap's static at around 4 seconds for the time being.
I've already had 25 minutes of this, so very, very nearly 1/6 of the way through. Blink for 9 it passes here at Croft.
Yes, no safety cars yet, touch wood, unlike the earlier race. The average for Croft is about 30 laps in for the first safety car. We're halfway there at the moment, so that's the average. We have had them earlier, as we saw earlier on today with the safety car only a few laps into the race. That was a move, I think, being made by the JPR for hire number 97 car. Yes, I think it was, past Ratters Racing. School Club, who started from pole position, of course, are in that group as well. In fact, they're going to try to pull alongside Ratters as they drop down towards Tower Corner.
How many cars are there in the UK for this? Do you know?
Lots. I mean,
more,
there are more not being used than are being used, I would say.
And do they sit with former drivers, or they get brought up by organisers, or?
A lot of them, of course, are still under the ownership of JPR, who, which is Paul Rose's company, run the championship. They run a lot of the cars. They still have a lot. There are quite a few that are owned by individual drivers who just don't race with us anymore. They do the odd race here or there. But yeah, there are lots of cars out there, and there's been a real sort of push to try and get as many of them out on track as possible. And I know that's one of the reasons they've really pushed to have live streaming this year, trying to build the profile of the championship and tempt those cars back out again. Because I mean, there are hundreds and hundreds of them across Europe, although the European ones run to different regulations with diesel engines. Jasper's doing stints 2, 4 and 5. He's doing stints 2, 5 and 6. He is double stinting at the end of the race, Ted Bradbury. As here we have the lead change down at Tower Corner. MJ Tech up the inside and ahead of EDF Motorsport. So if they stay there to the line, that will be 20 laps that it took them to hit the front, and that is 7 fewer than in race number 1. This is the team to beat today, I think, isn't it?
That's amazing, isn't it? And this is the 3-hour one, so there's no question of pacing themselves. Well, they are pacing themselves, but in terms of you're not going to temper the driving, get to the front as quickly as possible. Got the pace. And at the moment, fairly glad that I tipped them for the win.
That is far too early to be counting your chickens just yet.
It's a bit of a Man City prediction, though, isn't it? You know, who's going to... Oh, Man City.
Are they winning a lot at the moment?
The glory boy, isn't it?
I see.
Thing, isn't it?
Right. That's that football game, is it, that you're
not into it?
Yeah, not my sport, unfortunately. Living in Merseyside, vaguely, you'd think that I'd have at least a passing interest, but not really. Anyway, yes, they are looking strong, aren't they? But 3 wins in a row is going to take a lot of doing, and there's a lot that can go wrong in 2.5 hours of racing, so not tempting fate, but so far putting themselves in a good position. They hope to do what they did at Alton Park. They hit the front quite early at Alton Park and led the majority of the race, so can they now...
Okay.
Again, Jamie will correct me if I'm wrong, but...
That was another drummer?
Yes, yeah, I can't remember his name now. It's, my word, that is an engine. That's an engine, isn't it? That's going on. That's the Red River... Or is it? Yes, it is. It's still smoking on corner exit.
Not going to pits?
No, interestingly, but that definitely looks like an engine going on the 200 car. Hopefully it's not spilling fluid. Neil Primrose, the Travis drummer, by the way, Jamie reminds me, but the 200 machine smoking its way through Clairvaux. There is a surface flag out. Now, it could be wrong, slowing them down, but I'm sure they have seen it. Bit of splitter torn off the front of the 97 car. And we are going safety car. Safety car is out. We haven't yet had everybody into the pit lane, so this could change things a little bit. A big advantage, of course, to pitting behind the safety car. Everyone else going slowly. And you not going slowly, but I think they're going to have to address this fluid. I think this will be a lengthy safety car. They're going to have to do something, certainly in this final sector where the worst of the oil seems to be. Yes, thank you. Has he timed this perfectly? I think he might have done. Look at that. Look at that. Pro. Safety, it's almost like he knows what he's doing. Safety car into the pit lane, and the race back underway again then, just as the pit window opens. So it's all timed quite nicely, that, hasn't it? Jamie's going to be a busy boy in the next few minutes, because, of course, one of the other stories we need to follow through this race is refueling strategy. It's something we've not mentioned yet, but you don't have to refuel at every pit stop. You can go 2 full stints, probably 3 actually, on a tank of fuel, but not all teams will be choosing to do that. So certainly as we get to the business end of the race, we need to be knowing who is fueling, who isn't fueling at certain times at the second half of the race. But anyway, we'll get to that in a moment or two. The race gets back underway then with EDF Motorsports' Vlad Vasiliev leading, but for how much longer? Scott Jeffs is up the inside already towards Tower, and right behind is Ted Bradbury, who's all out of shape under braking.
Ted wanted that as well, didn't he?
That was fantastic stuff, into second place.
Yeah, it was no way. He wasn't going to follow Scott Jeffs through, was he? Absolutely hard on the brakes. and going through. What was it we were saying about, yeah, you know, starts and restarts, nothing frantic. It wasn't frantic, but it was very determined. Fair play, good move.
Yeah, wanted to stay latched
And
on
he wants the
to
lead.
the 2-4. Yeah, probably wants to get ahead. Yeah, these two cars have been latched together all day, actually, really. Throughout most of race one, these two were battling for the victory. Same now through the second race. And it is nose to tail that they run out of Sunny. With EDF third, GCI fourth, PLR fifth. Here comes fabulous Randaccio in the Uvio car, looking to the outside of Neil Plimmer into the complex. And then, of course, you've got Simon Rudd as well in that number one Olympian car trying to close in. I expect him to go long in this stint. They've got Riley Phillips, of course, to take over in the next part of the race. Through the hairpin we go then. MJ Tech defending the inside line and accelerating down past the pits, where Ted Bradbury, I think, is going to try and have a go into Clervaux.
He may well do. We see the lead car just jink over as we're looking at it, screen left, trying to defend and not leave a gap. There's half of one, now moves across, looks at the racing line. Bradbury is being forced to look every which way, but again, I think he's got to content himself with trying to build up a little bit of momentum now. Runs a little bit wider over the curves. Again, we get the great shot of just how unbalanced the cars are as they bounce over the surface up towards Hawthorns, now onto our back straight. It's Jeff's hang on. This is fascinating watching these two, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Throughout the whole course of the day, these two have just been so evenly matched. I hope this continues through the season, actually. That would be really, really nice. Around the outside tries to go Bradbury, maybe not trying to go right round the outside, but cut back to the late apex, get a bit of a slipstream, and maybe try and make the move into the Jim Clark S's, which he is. Oh, side by side through the Jim Clark S's. Hold your breath, everybody. Bradbury backs out of it and decides to keep his powder dry and wait for another opportunity, but Scott Jeffs hanging on for now. Ted Bradbury wanting to get through, but look, they're gapping the rest of the field, so even though they're battling, they are quicker than everybody else.
Yeah, amazing stuff. And do you know what? A lot of people would have said Ted Bradbury probably enjoyed his dicing and racing in the Mazda MX-5s. And this is proof that you get it in here as well. Racecraft, car control, everything is available here, just as it is in, say, watching the Mazdas.
Yeah, so many people tipping Ted Bradbury to go on to achieve great things. My word, he's certainly exciting to watch, isn't he? Tries to get to the outside again through the middle part of the complex. There's a gap on the inside into the hairpin, but Jeffs is late on the brakes, tries to go right round the outside, open the steering and get the momentum down the pit straight. Bradbury, in fairness, left him space on corner exit, but he might live to regret that when we get to Clervaux, because he's now on the outside line, and Scott Jeffs is not going to back down.
I think Scott left him a bit of room as well, to be actually. It was a great bit of racing between the pair of them for me to come down into Clervaux, and it's going to be the long way round for Bradbury. He can't do it, so he's got to have another nibble a little bit later on around this lap. It does give him the option, with the gap behind him, to take a little bit more of a run at the corners, doesn't it? Carry a little bit more corner speed and maybe have another go, but at the moment this is fascinating battle between these two.
He's going to have another go down at Tower, I'm sure of it, because he's close enough to get the slipstream down the back straight and into the big braking zone. We know that you can overtake here. Goes to the outside, then jigs back to the inside. If that works, that's a peach of a move. Brilliant dummy sold by Ted Bradbury to go from the outside to the inside. Kicks the curb, gets a bit sideways again. They just avoid rubbing. Terrific racing between the two of them, and this time Ted might not back out of this move round the outside into the Jim Clark S's. He's got the outside for the left, the inside for the right, over the curb. Absolutely inches between them, and still Scott Jeffs won't let him have it. Now he has no choice, and Bradbury completes the manoeuvre at Barcroft. That was some of the best side-by-side racing I've seen in a while.
Brilliant racing, super move, the pair of them. Take my hat off to them, really, really good stuff. Clean, that's how you do it, isn't it? Wonderful. And we've still got 2 hours, 5 minutes to go.
Exactly, and of course new drivers going to get into these cars in the next 5 minutes or so. That will change the dynamic a little bit. The pit window, remember, is open, but unsurprisingly most drivers choosing to stay out a little bit longer in this stint, because most of the teams have got one of their quicker drivers at the wheel. Uvio there at the inside of EDF, that's for third position, so they've already got past GCI Racing on this lap, and now Fabulous is in to a podium place.
He is. PLR coming under pressure from Team Olympian GRD, and I think some of these guys are going to be using all of the pit window and coming in. Might be a rush at the end here.
Yeah, I think so. It's not a massive pit lane here at Croft, really, so do get lots of them pitting at the same time. It can get very congested down there, and that can cause issues. There goes Simon Rudd. He's got past PLR Racing now, then into 7th position for Simon, who came up to me after the first race and said, "Did you enjoy that?" I said, "Yes, it was quite good, wasn't it?" He was like, yeah, tell me about it. And then proceeded to tell me all about it, and his first stint from his perspective, some of the moves that he was making. Bradbury snatching a break there into Tower. Now, you've got to watch that, because you don't change tyres in these races, but if you flat spot them, sometimes you've got no choice. So that was only a little lock-up, but keep an eye on that, make sure he doesn't keep doing it. If he does, then that could be a sign he's damaged the tyre.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a concern, isn't it? And he's pretty much on to doing the same thing a couple of times where he was trying to get past Scott Jeffs, wasn't he? So we won't know till much later into the race whether that's going to cause an issue or not. But he's not worried about that at the moment. He's a racer. He's had a very fine race with Scott Jeffs and managed to get bragging rights on this section so far. But Uwe Hoffmann closing out. Now bear in mind that's had a penalty, no penalty, and a trip in the gravel, and it's in third.
Yes, all within the first hour. Pretty eventful start to their race. EDF 4th, GCI 5th, ahead of Olympian Axiometrics, Greenheath and C Data, I think, still completing the top 10. Or has Jack Constable got the Skull Club racing car into the top 10? In the background, the next group of cars to come into shot, and they're still not there, so I can't tell you. But anyway, the leaders come past the pits. It's a big gap back, actually, isn't it, from Greenheath in 9th to see Data in 10th, except no, it is Skull Club in 10th, I can see. In the background, here comes Simon Rudd up the inside of GCI, and that puts Olympian into the top 5.
Yeah, very neat move. Probably one of your typical overtakes that you get here at Croft. Nicely executed, all good, clean fun. And now we'll try and close down at the end of this stint, make up another position perhaps.
Yeah, next target will be EDF, won't it, which is within a second or so. So quite close enough to attack into Tower, but by the next time they get to this part of the circuit, Simon Rudd, I think, will be on the attack, definitely. And Tower corner they go. These top 9 cars all separated by only 7 seconds. The top 2 separated by half a second at the start of the lap. And this is what excites me about the battle between these two drivers, these two teams. No matter who's in the cars at any given time, their pace when they get together seems almost identical. I mean, Bradbury can't drop Scott Jeffs, can he? So there's a good chance that Scott will be able to retaliate if half a chance presents itself.
Another change from the man who had pole position in our first race of the day, Bazil. And this is still closing up again, isn't it?
Exactly. Scott Jeffs won't go down without a fight. I wonder what when they'll decide to pit. Well, they both pit at the same time. I think they did at least once pit on the same lap in race 1, didn't they? And we had a battle in the pit lane between them. Battle that I seem to recall MJ Tech came out up on top, possibly, so we're looking to try and do the same again. Jamie reported, by the way, there was no issue with the MJ Tech pit stop earlier on. It just wasn't quite as quick as a couple of the cars around them. Into the pit lane in the background came Axiometrics, by the way, so that's sort of the first car from the lead group to make a pit stop. It will be John Railton handing over to Greg Evans for the third part of the race. Take us to the halfway point. Simon Rudd, though, wants to try and get into the top 4 now. He's on the tail of Vlad Vasiliev, and with a slipstream down the back straight, Richard, a move into Tower could be on.
Could well be. Let's see whether this is going to pan a little bit too far back maybe at the moment, but try and close it, or is he? No, he's not. Call me a liar. There we go. And without locking up, Bradbury style. Yeah,
absolutely. That was very controlled, a very measured move there from Simon Rudd. There's so much strength in depth, isn't there, in the driver talent this year, and each of these drivers that's moving towards the front of the field, you think, oh yeah, of course they are, they're very quick drivers, but they're all quick drivers really, the top half dozen or so. Wave 9 there were in pit lane, that was the 207 car. Jason Minshaw getting into that car now. But the lead group will probably have to be looking at pitting at the end of the net.
A little bit of a breather. Who was it? Was double stinting?
Ted at the end, so he'll get out now.
Yeah.
Which I suppose that presumably means that Neil will double stint now. Yes, he is. Neil Burrows will do a double stint. It's Greenheath. That's going to be Gary Bates getting in for a second stint. No fuel for MJ Tech, Jamie tells us, so that's significant. And I don't think I saw any fuel for Greenheath there either, so a few of them are going for a no fuel stop. 14, yep, no fuel. I guess maybe some of them who pitted behind the safety car earlier, MJ Tech and Morpheus being 2 of those, might have chosen to take fuel then. Out goes GCI ahead of Greenheath, ahead of Uvio. Morpheus must have taken fuel because they've lost a lot of time, so have PLR, so I'm guessing there was fuel for the 195, which is a short-term loss, but it could be a long-term gain, because now at the next stop, they might not have to take on as much fuel. We're probably just on the cusp of being able to make it to the end without any more fuel as well, so I wonder, maybe they brimmed it, maybe they've just brimmed the tank, hoping for a safety car or two to save some more fuel. Greenheat going very slowly through Hawthorn, having just left the pit lane. Had a drama for Gary Bates, or was he just getting up to speed? Not so sure. But that has definitely jiggled the order up a little bit. MJ Tech, I suspect, will now go back through into the race lead. But Morpheus, the big losers. But I reckon that's because they took fuel.
Yeah, I think you're right. Let's wait for the sort out, see how it all settles down, and if they are behind, then of course we might get some more Ted moments in the closing stages.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he gets a bit of time to sit with his feet up now, really, does Ted, and enjoy the race because he's not in the car. He will, I'm sure, be in the battle for the race victory, all things being well. We are nearly halfway through the third round of the Fun Cup Endurance Championship. MJ Tech lead the way. Their lead margin is coming down, though. It is 17.8 seconds. It came down by half a second that time. Marcus Clutton has realistically got about 12 or 13 more minutes of this stint if he goes, as I assume he will, right to the end of the pit window before handing back over again to who's getting in next, and find out what's going on. That's a shame, though, because I know Will and the rest of the team, they were really looking forward to this. They were already starting to catch the Fun Cup bug, but they've not really had the best of times next day. Maybe they'll be tempted back again later on in the year.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Let's hope they do. Ian Wood's getting a crack on, isn't he? And having a look at the UVO Hoffman car, not quite close enough to have a challenge at the moment. And you just saw the gap there for the Signature RV car in second position. This is scrapped for third at the moment. What's the gap now? It is... wait for them to cross the line, which...
together.
The only trouble is, I started... We had a conversation with a couple of dads last year. I started getting picky, thinking one of them wasn't quite quick enough for him. And I was wrong. Needless to say, I was wrong. But you do, don't you? You think, oh, to have the best chance, you need three very quick pilots. And you would.
Well, you would, absolutely. But not just quick, but consistent, and not going to get in trouble, and not going to crash, and going to look after the car. There's so much that goes into it, and not just outright speed. One car that does have good speed is Morpheus Racing, and Will Abraham has just managed to move into the top 5 ahead of Chris Dovell in the Team Olympian car. Chris is, I think, now over half a minute adrift of the race lead, but this will be his final stint of the race before they put Riley Phillips, Simon Rudd in next. No, Riley Phillips in next, then Simon Rudd, and then Riley again for the final stint. And that's going to happen now because the pit window is open, and so it is going to be Riley Phillips jumping into car number 1, and this car is now going to start going very quickly, I think, in the second half of the race. And the question is, can they overhaul what is, let's call that a 30-second deficit? They get a safety car, though. They're golden, aren't they? Because they know that will eradicate most of that deficit, and then they've got their quick drivers in till the flag.
Who's the master in Olympian? Is that Chris? Or is that
yes.
Riley? Yeah, it's Chris.
Riley is one of the, well, he was the youngest on the grid for a while, not anymore. I think maybe about 20-ish. Riley Phillips now. Very, very quick. He's wearing, actually, a set of Chris Dovell's old, one of Chris's old race suits. For this weekend. He said that the pit stops were quicker because he was in Chris's racing. This is the team that is so well versed. Actually, Simon said that's what he's had to really practice now, joining that team, and he has to be up to a certain standard, and a lot of practice has gone in, and that's what they use much of that qualifying session for as well, because it doesn't set the grid for either of the races. You just have to all complete 3 laps each to be legally qualified then to race in the 2 races later on in the day, but then they spend most of that doing pit stop practice for good reason. Across the line come Uvio and GCI Racing, the 2 cars that did battle for the championship a couple of years ago, with GCI coming out on top. At the moment, it's Olympian have now got Riley Phillips in the car. I expect the number 1 car to become one of the fastest cars on the track. He's on the inside into Clairvaux and now puts that car into 6th position, but he is half a minute adrift of the race leaders. Oh, Signature RV through the gravel as well.
Yeah, you can hear it, can't you? I was worried whether that was going to be a sticker in the gravel and a safety car, but not, thank goodness.
They've lost their splitter though, look, completely lost it.
Yeah.
So that's going to slow that car down. That's a shame after all that hard work Marcus put in to get them back in the running. But yeah.
Tyres still cold at that stage, he's had no. That debate seems to have died off for a bit, doesn't it, about track limits this year, thank goodness. Let's hope we don't start getting into that until we go to Thruxton and chicanes with touring cars. It will kick off again, no doubt.
Well, we had a 4-hour Fun Cup race there a few years ago at Thruxton, and not 1 track limits penalty. So just
was it not? Super. Well, there you go. So the touring cars, they'll be bleating about. I We get asked a lot, and I just say talk to Tim Harvey about it because he's the one that's most vocal, and he's right with what he says. Is usually right, so
yeah,
that's why I defer to Harvey.
Yes, no major track limits issues generally within front running. It happens occasionally. Alton Park actually was quite a hot topic. Most of the front running teams picked up a penalty at one point or another, but that's because they've put extra concrete runoff area beyond the edge of the curb. So of course they're going to use it. If you put grass there, they wouldn't really.
And also I think because it's I don't know whether they got the sensors there, but because it's MSV, as Palmer put sensors in there, so where you've got the sensors, you get more of it. As in football with VAR, you get more offsides now.
Fastest man on track.
Sewn up, haven't they?
Well, not now you've said that.
No, it's just been, you had that feel, you know, from race 1 where they carved their way through from the back, and like buses, isn't it? 3 wins in come at once.
They just looked so in control in race 1. I know they had to fight for it, but it had a sense of inevitability about it, that they were going to get to the front and then they'd probably stay there, and then they came out of the pit stop, the final pit stop, with a bit of a lead and just never really looked back. So and this is very much what they did at Alton Park. They took the lead at Alton, the season opener, with how many laps to go? 72 laps to go. They led the final 72 laps of a 110 lap race, which is very elbows out and you know, proper aggressive sort of racing with a fair bit of contact. You can't really be doing that in Fun Cup. Not that he was ever a dirty driver, but you know, there were a few battles that he'd get himself involved in, and they didn't necessarily end in contact, but by scrapping really hard for second place, they'd let the leader get away, and then they couldn't ever really quite catch them. Whereas I think he's now learned how you win these Fun Cup races, and you pick your battles. And I think it's just a combination of experience with the car. He's got quicker, he's got a quick teammate, and they've just learned what it takes to win these races. By winning one, they've kind of cracked the formula now a little bit, and you get teams that do this, that go on these little runs where for 2 or 3 years they dominate. It used to be PLR back in the day, and then Race Logic came along and won a load of races, and then Uvio came back and started winning, then Olympian won for a few years in a row where they were just winning almost every race. So maybe this is the era of MJ Tech that we're entering into.
Well, certainly in for an interesting season, and the way they've started is so phenomenal. We jumped from 1 to 3 rounds complete this weekend, and if they come through having won all 3, the others are going to be scratching their heads, aren't they? Yeah, no, absolutely, and we'll put them in a very good points position. Is Anglesey a double header, double endurance?
2-3 hours.
2-3 hours, right.
3 hour race in the afternoon, and then the into the night race on the coastal circuit. Probably the highlight of my season, that event, if the weather's nice. Anyway, we've been there and it's been a bit grim sometimes, but on a nice summer's day and evening, the barbecue's going, and
I've got to go to Anglesey.
It's a fantastic. Are you at the Anglesey Fun Cup?
I think I am, yeah. I'm done. I've got 2 Angleseys over 2 or 3 weeks. We've got the Genetics G-Fest, which I'm looking forward to. I know you are as well. And I haven't checked what's on, but I'm pretty sure it's Fun Cup weekend. So
yes, well, if it's likely, it'll be live streamed, so I imagine I think it's Mazdas and Fun Cup on that weekend. Double check in a minute.
Even better.
Exactly, yes. And we're using the 2 different layouts as well, so the Fun Cup uses the coastal circuit and the others use the international.
That's not an easy thing to do administratively now.
No.
I know the 2 different permits and costs and everything go up, so that'll be good.
Absolutely. So, anyway, we are nearly 2 hours into the race, would you believe? MJ Tech are now 10.6 seconds up the road at the head of the field. GCR Racing still 3rd place behind Uvio Hoffmans. And Jamie actually telling me that it's not a night race at Anglesey this year. That's a shame. I don't know why they've changed that. So 2 daytime races then of 3 hours. I presume they're both of 3 hours. I know I'm questioning right now.
The sheep put in a noise complaint apparently.
Nothing would surprise me at this stage, honestly. Yes, anyway, so 2 day races, but I presume they're both still 3 hours in duration. Jamie will correct me on that if I'm wrong. It's good to know he's listening to us still, 2 hours into the race and hanging on our every word. Poor bloke.
I know. No, he's got shorts on and it's raining. That's not the best thing, is it, really?
Oh, well, no, probably not. But don't go hiding, Jamie, because we've got pit stops coming very shortly. Whoops, that's a spin for the 110. It's not the first time we've said that today. Who's in that car now? That's Alex Jones. And the Sport 77 team, having a bit of a tricky day. Now, one thing I'm interested to see now, if it does start getting damp out there, which it looks like it might do, are the same teams and the same drivers going to have the pace advantage in the wet as they had in the dry? Certainly as far as MJ Tech are concerned, that seems to be the case. They keep on extending this margin over Uvio, but this is where experience comes into play, isn't it? Those who have done more races in these cars, done more wet running in these cars, should start to have an advantage if it starts to get a bit damp.
Yeah, I think I'm just checking what's changed around since the start of this stint to try and get my head around who's where. Top three as were, PLR down a couple, and Team Olympian up 2 spaces, and Morpheus with Neil Burrows that were still 5th position. So not that many changes in this stint. It's been fairly settled, and we're saving perhaps fast drivers for the last stint. This is maybe where we're going to finish, isn't it?
Yes, a couple of exceptions, of course, Morpheus being one of them. So we'll get Ted Bradbury until the end now. I reckon they'll be early in as well. I think they'll come in quite early to get Ted the maximum time, give him as close to the full hour
that could be about now, couldn't it? So
could be now, yeah. End of this lap, they'll probably see the board, and then the next time round they can probably pit. So to Sunny we go. That's GCI at the inside of the 22 School Club Racing car. And Russell Joyce at the wheel of that. No, Jack Constable at the wheel. Russell Joyce will take over the next stint. Russell sponsoring the Team of the Day award for this year as well, which is nice, which he said he's sort of regretting because it now means he probably can't win that award. And there have been, well, certainly today, having a pretty solid day. Might have been a candidate for it, but yeah, good to see Russell getting stuck into Fun Cup. Jack's done a couple of races in Fun Cup before, bringing Russell along for the ride in 2022, and they own that car as well, so they are fully committed to doing the rest of the season. A pair of drivers who have both raced in TCR UK in the past.
Board out, so we're ready to see who comes in.
Fuel or a splitter waiting.
They are Jamie's legs there, aren't they?
No, I actually don't think they were.
I was thinking shorts, okay, they're not.
I did see whoever that bloke is before, though, and at a glance thought it might have been Jamie, but no, he'll be taking shelter now in one of the garages. Hopefully make his way out to watch the pit stops when they start beginning in earnest. There is the Olympian car, Riley Phillips. He's going to keep on going, I'm sure. He's going to hand back over to Simon Rudd for the next stint and then get in for the final stint. The gap, he is adrift of the leaders of those. Yes, 32 seconds now, so keeps going up, not down, which is a little bit odd for Riley. He is, though, catching GCI Racing, only 3 seconds behind now, actually, and may well catch them before he hands the car over to Simon. Sorry,
I was just going to say, I'm surprised we're not seeing more people dash in at this stage.
A lot of them have got their quick guys in, though, haven't they? So they're going to try and keep them out. Having said that, Uvio, MJ Tech, not really any big difference in pace between either of their drivers, is there? There's the 110 car after that spin in the pit lane. The 49 machine back out. They didn't replace the splitter then. Right in front of GCI Racing, but 2 cars back is the blue and white number 1 Olympian car, so almost with them now. School Club Racing car also in between them, but I don't think it's going to take Riley long to catch that triple one, is it?
No, it's not for sure.
It's ambitious. 22 pitted? No, not yet. So still Jack Constable in the car, making some pretty robust moves. 6 races we've had at Croft. The fewest amount of safety cars we've had is 2. 4 times 2 safety cars. But of course we've never had a 3-hour race before. Always 4 or 5 hours. The very first pair of championship races for Fun Cup took place here back in 2011. This is where it became a championship. With a pair of races, one won by Track Talk and the other by Team Honeywell, which is now Team PLR. So that was a lot of years ago, 13 years ago or 14 years ago, and Neil Plymmer won the 2nd ever championship race in the Fun Cup here at Croft, and still going strong now in 6th place here today.
My memories of Neo, I might have said this last time, was Formula Ford at Mallory. Great pilot in that, many happy races watching him race with, and again with BRSCC on a lot of them. Morpheus in, that was quick.
Yes.
That was quick.
Now remember, I was questioning whether they would have to refuel again because they fueled the last 2 stops, and I don't think they fueled them.
No.
So that's the thing that could get them back in the game, isn't it? If they don't have to refuel at either of the final 2 stops, they could save potentially getting on for 15 seconds each time. They are 30 odd seconds off the lead, so that could close. And of course, they're now going to have Bradbury until the end, and Bradbury has been the fastest man in this race. So don't count that car out. MJ Tech have not got this wrapped up just yet, that's for sure.
So a few of them having done their 4th stops, but several of them still haven't. So next few minutes will be a little bit decisive. Fuel being taken on by the 246.
Yeah, still on the lead lap, aren't they, 246, having led in the early stages. Simon Cole's back in now. But yeah, they've had a solid day, actually. They've been getting so much quicker, that team, over the last year and a half or so, I would say. And Vlad Vasiliev is a big part of that. He's just upped his pace massively from where he was when he first joined the championship. PLR coming in there. GCI, meanwhile, battling Team Olympian. This is for 249 still won't tell us what they're doing with fuel. To be fair, no, that's 249, yeah, actually. So that's 3 teams that won't talk to us now.
Yeah, and all key players as well.
Oh, my word. That's Ted Bradbury making some moves. And that is because he's just moved ahead of GCI Racing, hasn't he? He's just put the Morpheus Racing car into 4th position, but that will become 3rd when Olympian pit. So,
it will, yeah.
Yeah, significant there. That was a good move.
So it's Ted to the end now, isn't it? One more stop for him. And maybe then we'll see him walk around the car.
Maybe.
Or fuel going.
Well, Jamie actually did. I think that might have changed since I was first told about that rule, because he said if you're double stinting, you get out, shut the door, and open it and get in, so they don't actually make you run around the car anymore, which I think is a missed opportunity for a bit of fun, isn't it? I think
it would put, but like you said earlier, it would put people off doing it because it's a longer stop.
I guess so, yes, and there probably is some health and safety thing about running out nearer to the fast lane, but still, I think it's yes, exactly. What if someone tripped over it? Anyway, we'll not get into that. But yeah, so they've changed that now. So yeah, it is just get out, close the door, get back in. Fuel for 249.
Not a lot though.
No. Well, what we don't know is if that was the first or the second churn, or if the
Morpheus car coming shot. There it is. So we've got around about, I'd say, 1/3 of the length of the straight at the moment. Simon Rudd back to Ted Bradbury, as the Uvio Hoffman car in 2nd position rounds the first corner. Clairvaux down towards Hawthorne. 10.975 is the gap. So the gap's actually gone out. MJ Tech taking 7/10 out on that lap as we flick back and pick up on Ted Bradbury.
Camera in a car you don't actually see, because the camera's often to the side or ahead of the driver. From the external shot though, with this brilliant Alpha Live camera work, we are getting the chance to enjoy that. I suspect we'll see the one car in. Yes, we will. Simon Rudd, he'll be spitting feathers, won't he, now, knowing that they had a really good chance to win this race. Could still come back to them. You never know what the final half an hour holds. It is only a brief stop going. It's only a short pit lane. They pull into the penalty bay. They stop. They wait. Oh, it's actually a lengthy stop go, this, isn't it? It's not just a stop and then a go. That's what, 5 seconds or so stationary? Yeah. Out they go again. Yeah. By interesting, you mean a difficult overtake to make, which is what we want to see, really, but it's not what Ted wanted. So I think he'll probably fancy his chances against Uvio, especially if they are struggling a little bit, which they seem to be. It would have been the number 1 car he was most concerned about, I suspect.
So is Ted and Uvio going to be done before the next stop, do you reckon?
Yes, I think. They've got 10 minutes probably before they have to bring them in. The pit window will be open now for the final time, but remember it's open for those 10 minutes. So he's only a couple of seconds back and taking chunks. He's 2.4 seconds back and about a second a lap quicker. I just don't see Farkini being able to put up too much of a defence here, really.
So one wonders, the complexion of the championship changes. So do you think the driver lineups will change? Do you think some of the older drivers will start to get in young guns to come in, or will teams start offering it to the experience to, you know, teams of younger drivers to come into, maybe 3 quick younger drivers to. Don't know, do we, how it's going to...
Quite possible. I mean, it depends a little bit who you ask. If you look at someone like Uvio, for example, they wouldn't do that because those two have been racing together for years.
They do what they do.
They race for fun. Winning isn't the be-all and end-all for Uvio.
How far away are they from Masters entries, do we know?
Oh, that's a dangerous question. Closer than they were a couple of years ago. Let's go with that.
Great answer.
I don't think they're quite there yet, but mind you never quite know what to believe with those two, do you? So who knows? They might be there already and just keeping it a secret from us. In comes the Battle of Minshaw car, the 207. It's got to push some way down the order.
Wave 9 sounds like it should be a seaside radio station.
Doesn't it? Yes. Yeah,
Hope they don't get beached.
Oh, very good. Very good. Out. It's waved, the Wave 9 car. It's not an instruction, Wave 9, it's just the sponsor name. Marshall taking that quite literally. Bit of damage on the front of that car as well. It's not the only one, in fairness. Now here is Bradbury.
There he is.
Well, it's looking likely this will be done possibly by the end of the next lap, isn't it? He's close enough maybe even to think about it having a go into the hairpin. Here he goes.
He's always going to be there.
Yeah. Snatches the brake, parks the car. Oh, runs a bit
He's
wide.
coming back. Farkini's going to have another go. He's got back in front as well. But he's on the outside.
Yeah, and Ted might try and get a bit of a side draft here, maybe something he picked up from his MX-5 racing last year. He doesn't get that close to the Uvio car, but pulls level anyway. He's got that inside line, and Farkini knows when he's beat, in fairness. I think if Ted hadn't run wide out of the hairpin, Farkini would probably have just ducked in behind him anyway. So 14.8 seconds then now the gap. That was a new fastest lap of the race for Ted Bradbury, 37.2. So we're not yet back down into the 36s, but as the fuel burns off in this final stint, we don't anticipate they're going to add any fuel in this final pit stop. Remember, Ted Bradbury with the bit between his teeth just needs to try and get close enough to put the pressure on MJ Tech. And remember, we don't know what's going to happen in this last pit stop for MJ Tech either. And
the big picture for them, I mean, but coming into this stint, they were 10.2 seconds clear, and that's gone out to 14.
yes, true.
But different cars now in different order behind them.
Yeah, they were what, nearly 30 ahead of Morpheus, and that's halved nearly. That's going to be their concern, isn't it? Because if you can do that in one stint, you can do that in another stint, all things being equal. But of course, he might catch MJ Tech. That doesn't mean he's going to, like you said, sail straight past them. With 5 minutes to go, it'll be a heck of a showdown, that, wouldn't it, for the victory. So don't go anywhere, anyone. 26 minutes to go, and we're setting up for another grandstand finish, I think, here at Croft in the Fun Cup, where we've had some pretty close finishes in the past. The closest was the 2019 race, which the Trumans won, their one and only win in the championship, under a second between them after 5 hours of racing, and 35 lead changes in that race in what was a true epic. It kept raining and then it stopped raining, and it was just a brilliant race, lots of safety cars, and one of the best races I've ever covered in this championship. This one could be up there though if we do get that grandstand finish. Zuvio squeeze up the inside of a couple of back markers, but already being dropped by Bradbury, aren't they?
Yeah, he's got the run on them at the moment, isn't he? So who's the quicker out of Farkini and Fabulous?
I don't think there is one.
Depend on the day.
Depends on the day, honestly. I think they're so evenly matched, those two. I just don't think there's a big difference in pace, honestly. It's probably the most evenly matched driver pairing out there these days, which is what led them to so much success in the past. But to your point earlier on about bringing in young guns or fast from Scott Jeffs, and that probably means he's got one more lap maybe that he might now have to defend, because definitely Bradbury's in the slipstream range now. Across the line they go. Another new fastest lap for Bradbury. 8/10 quicker than the leader. He's a second back, and it's about 1 second where you start to feel the pull of that slipstream. He's catching anyway, he's quicker anyway. Give him the slipstream, but he's going to be on the rear bumper of the 249 car probably by the end of the back straight. And with 10 minutes to go, the top two cars are separated by 1 second in what has been another classic third round of the Fun Cup Endurance Championship. MJ Tech, winners of the first 2 rounds this season, desperately trying to cling on to a third win in a row, whilst Ted Bradbury for Morpheus Racing hunts for his second career Fun Cup victory as well, and his first of 2024. This could not be better.
Had MJ Tech not had those 2 slight issues with the pit stops, they'd have been a little bit further down the road. We don't know how much of an effect that's going to have on the end result, but you could see, you mentioned it, Scott Jeffs, the way he was talking, there was just a little bit of an edge there, wasn't there? A little bit of a worry.
Yeah, absolutely, and this isn't going to be helping his anxiety levels. He's got the Ratters racing car ahead, which can't just disappear, can it? It can't just jump out of the way. It has to go around the corner, but that was really not a good part of the track to catch it. It does now pull out of the way. Good driving there from David Ratcliffe. He's going to let Jeffs through. Is he going to let Bradbury through as well? No, he doesn't. That was insignificant, and Bradbury won't be best pleased with that. So now Scott Jeffs has to push. He has to nail this final corner. Ratcliffe is actually defending a little bit. Bradbury launches up the inside. He's on the cement dust. He's sideways, gathers it together, makes the move, but drops 2 or 3 car lengths to the leader.
I think that was difficult for Ratcliffe, you know, because you're on a part of the circuit which goes one way and then the other. And I always ask that question, if you're being lapped, what do you do? Do you take the car off completely? It's got to go one way or the other. And if there's an element of S's into it, then one part of that corner you're going to be in the wrong place for somebody, and that was just a little bit unfortunate for Ted. I don't think he can really get too cross.
No, probably not, but you try reasoning with a hot-headed racing driver who's trying to win a race. I think he'll probably realise afterwards that not much could have been done, but right now he'll be gripping that steering wheel just a little bit tighter. He'll be leaning forward in the seat, and we're giving it everything he's got down the back straight to try and get back within striking range again of the race leader. Down through Tower we go, 8 minutes to go. Every lap that goes by, though, where Bradbury isn't attacking, it's just giving Scott Jeffs a glimmer of hope. So that battle's going to engage before the flag. We will have 2 more laps to go at the end of this one, Richard, and Bradbury still has not unlocked the door.
No, he hasn't. Here we come. And he's going for it. We said,
oh my word.
The hairpin was the next option for Bradbury, and he's got through.
Got him. Out wide went Scott Jeffs. Now Jeffs has to retaliate straight away, get in the slipstream and try and make the move towards Clervaux. Ted Bradbury's going to hook that white line down driver's right, but if he defends into Clervaux, then Jeffs might have the run on the exit side by side, and so Bradbury holds on to the lead, but he forced the mistake out of Jeffs. Dive to the inside. I don't think actually anticipating he'd make the move there, but just to try and spook Scott Jeffs into not turning into the apex, and that worked perfectly. But now Scott has the toe down the back straight.
He has. Do you know what, Brad?
The hairpin, he whacks the bollard out of the way. He's using every inch of the Croft circuit available to him, but Ted Bradbury might just be out of striking range. Into the hairpin we go, and I don't think Scott Jeffs is going to get there. Morpheus Motorsport will stop the MJ Tech domination at the start of 2024. It's a second career Fun Cup Endurance Championship victory for Ted Bradbury. Morpheus Motorsport win at Croft, and he is delighted with that. Scott Jeffs has to settle for second, but a round of applause to both of them. That was sensational. Riley Phillips did get third place from Uvio on that last lap. He's weaving in celebration as well. There was a bit of contact, but they're both still there, so I think all's fair, and Uvio have to settle before